HSPs are deeply affected by external stimuli. The Swiss psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, was the first one to introduce the idea that a few people had a natural sensitivity to the outside world. As indicated by Jung, people brought into the world with extreme sensitivity are bound to be more influenced by negative childhood encounters and more prone to anxiety, depression, and introversion further down the road. Given a supporting and positive childhood, these same people won't be as predisposed to these issues as less sensitive people. They could actually lead significantly richer lives. In the mid-1990s, only a limited amount of research on high sensitivity was done. Most surviving research was centered on introversion, which considered levels of friendliness, instead of the manner in which the subjects processed or responded to external stimuli. Preceding the identification of HSP as a type of personality, some research recognized the existence of people who had lower thresholds for bearable amounts of stimulation and who experienced joy and torment more seriously than others, though, the research did not investigate the idea of sensitivity inside and out. With sensitive children, physical blows or traumas aren't required to make them afraid of the dark. Personality traits are inherited and deeply established inside the nervous system. One long-term study was done on 350 sets of twins, separately raised by various families, and yet found to have similar personality traits. This supports that personality attributes are for sure inherited. Biological studies have discovered the quality of elevated sensitivity in more than 100 species, including fish and fruit flies. A few researchers have recommended that creatures can be specifically geared to be more sensitive. Recently, scientists have done more research and analyzed the way a person's genes, together with their environment, decide his characteristics. One study found that variation in the genes that regulate dopamine, like DRD4, may add to changing degrees of sensitivity, which can make an individual either stronger or more responsive to her environment. Some highly sensitive people, for instance, had the ability to bounce back mentally from stressful and negative conditions quicker, while others suffer more from the same environmental stressors. Researchers called the stronger subjects dandelions, a plant usually considered a weed that is difficult to kill, and referred to the more delicate ones as orchids, a sensitive plant that will often die when exposed to the smallest environmental changes. Inquisitively, the scientists found that orchids were bound to prosper and flourish in more supporting conditions than dandelions were. A study published in 2018 found that people could indeed be naturally low sensitive, medium sensitive, and high sensitive, which eventually influenced their experiences and conduct. Introversion is often confused with sensitivity. High sensitivity is frequently confused with introversion and shyness, which is incorrect. Bashfulness is a state of mind, which goes back and forth based on the circumstance. In fact, 30% of HSPs are extroverts. With Western culture's inclination towards extroversion and aggressiveness, it should not shock anyone that the other 70% of HSPs feel flawed and alienated. In any case, these misinterpretations may change. Elaine Aron published research, including The Highly Sensitive Person, that set off the creation of an abundance of literature on HSPs. This has prompted more interest and exposure for this regular characteristic and how it differs from certain traits such as depression. Susan Cain's bestseller Quiet 2013 has helped spark interest in introversion and changed the adverse mainstream perceptions on introverts' personality traits. Cain contends that regardless of Western culture's bias towards the alpha personality, a large number of most creative people in history were easily stimulated and sensitive. Like Aron, Cain encourages managers and administrators to make changes to schools and work environments to permit sensitive people to thrive. Aron reacted to Quiet and its popularity in the media, which have mixed up HSPs and introverts and obscured the lines between introversion and sensitivity. Though she did consider the book a colossal, tremendous advance for better comprehension of HSPs. There are types of HSPs. Two brain systems have been identified by research, the behavioral activation system, which urges a person to move towards new things, and the pause-to-check system, which causes hindrance and mindfulness to risk. The harmony between the two systems is the thing that leads to different sensitivity levels. In any case, this balance varies among HSPs. They may be bunched toward the inhibition end of the spectrum, yet at the same time express a range of various sensitivities. Generally, there are two particular kinds of HSPs. One sort has a strong initiation system and a much stronger pause-to-check system, bringing about people who are inquisitive yet mindful, easily bored yet easily overstimulated. The other sort has a normal pause-to-check system and a weak initiation system, bringing about people who are quiet, calm, and content with a basic life. These two types can be divided further when they join with a person's unique childhood, condition, and encounters. Aron made a 27-items questionnaire, also known as the Highly Sensitive Person Scale, in order to quantify individual contrasts among HSPs so as to consider the nuanced ways they process outer stimuli. Since the scale was made, more studies on HSPs found that there were diverse shades of high sensitivity, some of which could anticipate more noteworthy tendencies towards nervousness and neuroticism. Scientists likewise discovered that specific types of sensitivity could prompt higher states of prosperity. HSPs are bound to flourish professionally while pursuing a vocation instead of a typical job. Most HSPs don't do well in typical work environments, which can be stressful and overstimulating. HSPs frequently battle with being underestimated and undervalued in corporate workplaces. Rather, they benefit from pursuing a life calling or a vocation. This ought to be a profession that makes them fulfilled instead of a job, which is an unfortunate chore. Though this might be hard for some HSPs with low self-confidence and habit to overanalyze, it is important for HSPs to seek after a higher calling to accomplish long-term happiness and fulfillment. In Dr. Barry Yeager's book Making Work for the Highly Sensitive Person 2004, she discusses the potential effects of typical working environments on HSPs. She states, so often, HSPs stay in their jobs far too long. When they leave, they're depleted, emotionally. The agony lingers for quite a while. Some suffer burnout and chronic fatigue syndrome and need years to regain their full strength. Yeager says that in order to be satisfied by their work, HSPs require control, innovativeness, and adaptability, adding that perfect vocations for HSPs include those that involve solo activities. Examples of these include editing, writing, and graphic design, or one-on-one jobs like tutoring, coaching, and counseling. Vocations that require in-depth analysis, such as market trend analysis, data researching, and stock valuation, are likewise reasonable for HSPs. Self-employed HSPs are often happier and more fulfilled than traditionally employed HSPs. HSPs fall in love harder than others, which can cause imbalanced love. The overstimulation tendency of HSPs is most clear in romantic relationships. They often experience more intense passionate feelings than others, which can mean deeper connection and intimacy. This one-sided intensity can prompt overpowering and imbalanced love that can eventually smother their partner. Besides, they are so delicate to nuances, HSPs are bound to fixate on and become disrupted by their partner's attitude and stress continually over the success of the relationship. Notwithstanding these difficulties, HSPs can have healthy and meaningful romantic relationships. The key to a successful relationship and genuine mutual love is acceptance and understanding of an HSP's sensitivity by the couple. In their book Safe People 1995, John Townsend and Henry Cloud emphasize the significance of finding a partner who won't be terrified or threatened by the intimacy needs or a need to get their partner. This is particularly essential for HSPs, who are frequently blamed by their non-HSP partners for being too touchy and tyrannical. Defining and maintaining healthy boundaries in relationships is important for HSPs, who must figure out how to be vulnerable in a relationship without completely losing themselves in it. Psychotherapy, and Jungian analysis specifically, is valuable for HSPs. Psychotherapy has been proven to be a viable solution for HSPs battling with deep issues. Since it requires analyzing one's youth, with an emphasis on the exercises and messages of the subconscious, Jungian analysis encourages HSPs to more readily understand their exceptional characteristics and heal any emotional injuries it may have caused them. Lamentably, numerous HSPs succumb to the medical practitioner's biases who naturally see them as mentally ill. Addictive psychoactive medications are often prescribed to them to lessen their nervousness and overstimulation. These quick fixes are likely to harm HSPs since they are more highly sensitive to drugs than non-HSPs. A few specialists argue that self-improvement is repressed by such medications, and trust that HSPs searching for genuine healing and mindfulness should start with the procedure of introspection. But, in some extraordinary cases, like crippling depression and other psychological illnesses, for example, psychoactive medications may be advantageous. It is imperative for HSPs to figure out how to communicate effectively with their doctors about their personality qualities so as to get the most effective treatment. HSPs are visionary and can make great spiritual leaders. Most HSPs are introverted intuitives, which, as indicated by Jungian psychologist Marie-Louise von Franz, implies they are more linked to the spiritual realm and prone to visions, dreams, and divine messages. Thus, HSPs are regularly in a situation to direct and advise people with great influence. They are the intuitive and sensitive clerical advisors to the non-HSP warrior rulers in society. HSPs are visionaries and can make for incredible spiritual leaders. As indicated by social mentor and HSP expert Jim Hallows, popular HSPs included Gandhi, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, and Martin Luther King, who all showed the inborn ability, compassion, and empathy to detect others' needs that is so normal for many HSPs. Rather than coming up with the easiest and quickest solution to an issue, HSPs are wired to think and study situations deeply, drawing not just from the current info, but from the aggregated subconscious. As a result of these characteristics, HSPs are mostly approached to be problem solvers and spiritual leaders in emergencies. With these gifts, HSPs are urged to investigate and reinforce their spirituality through regular practice, like yoga, meditation, prayer, reading, journaling, intentional thinking, etc. Having set moral rules, regardless of whether they be the Ten Commandments, Buddhist precepts, or another ethical code, can likewise add meaning to HSPs' lives. Whenever understood and embraced, high sensitivity can turn into a strength. In the work environment, HSPs can be more honest, thoughtful, and intuitive than others. Given sufficient creative freedom, time, and space, HSPs can be powerful leaders, utilizing their interesting experiences and vision to be creative and push limits. Examples of HSP trailblazers are Mozart, Orson Welles, John Lennon, Sir Isaac Newton, Abraham Lincoln, and Steven Spielberg. Sensitivity can make HSPs better lovers than non-HSPs. Ted Zeff wrote an article entitled, "Sensitive Men Make Better Lovers" to put forth the defense that HSPs can be better sexual partners since they are more sensitive to their partner's needs and fulfillment than non-HSPs. Author and HSP Deborah Ward adds, "The very traits that make us highly sensitive are the qualities that give us enormous inner strength. The key to developing inner strength, therefore, is not in trying to be less sensitive, but recognizing that sensitivity is a strength. Ultimately, an individual can become successful because of their high sensitivity." Conclusion: HSPs need to find their best level of stimulation, which varies from one person to another, and educate people about their traits. Viewing sensitivity from a positive perspective and having coping strategies can help HSPs to make valuable contributions to workplaces and, in turn, society. Try this. Start by accepting your sensitivity. Determine the negative side of it and learn to manage it. Embrace the positive aspect of it as your super strength.